Every time I come to Paris, I feel it less and less and less. The crowds, the noise, the smell. It's not the Paris that I remember from the early 2000s. And maybe that's what makes it so hard for me. I don't recognize it from these good old times. This week, it really confirmed it for me. I had to come to Paris because I started the startup program with Station F, a month long program where I will be working, accelerating my startup. So I thought that maybe I can also reconnect with my friends, have a walk in the old, good favorite places that are close to my heart and dance a little tango because, hey, there is no tango where I live. So I arrive at the train station and the crowds just blew me away. I got really tired already just by looking at these crowds. It took ages to leave the train station and to reach the apartment of my friend where I'm currently staying. I don't know, I got tired. And every time going out and being within these crowds just drains so much of my energy. And hey, let's be realistic, Paris, the same like any other city, is not exactly the same as it used to be. And I'm currently in this conflict between the Paris that I remember and the Paris that it is now. And my current self does not like this Paris today. My story with Paris brings me back to 2000 when I lived in Ukraine and I studied French, between other things. Um, I was in love with the French language, but more than that, I wanted to get the real European education as I was thinking back in the day. And so, to make this story really short, I managed to get to France in 2001. For the first year in France, I was au pair in the family with three children that lived on the outskirts of Paris. During this year, I was preparing the entrance exam to enter the master's program in Sciences Po. It's a prestigious school for political science. Not only, but mainly it's known for political science. So the year where I was au pair, I prepared this concours, the entrance exam. I did it. I managed to enter Sciences Po. However, my diploma back in the day, my bachelor's degree, was not recognized, so I had to redouble my bachelor's in Paris. And nonetheless, I studied there for 2.5 years, got my degree, my master's degree, and then I got my first job. So, all in all, I lived for 7 years in Paris and I became the real adult. Well, without quotation marks, I became the real adult in Paris. Back in the day, internet was not as widespread as today. To write an email or to check something on the internet, I had to sign up to this special computer room in my school and check for information or send an email to those who had it. Like my parents didn't have an email back in the day. So I called them once a week from a phone booth. I needed to buy a special card for calls abroad. Then you go to the booth, you dial the number, and then every call was so expensive that, yeah, I could talk only maybe 5 to 10 minutes with them. So it was a real luxury. I'm saying all of this to highlight how um, closed my environment was. So even though I had connections to my friends or to my family, but it was very limited. So my bubble was in Paris. Most of my friends here were French or foreigners who spoke French. I had very little exposure to the English language and even less to the Ukrainian language. I had a few Ukrainian friends. However, my bubble was really French. And so during this 7 years, especially in the beginning, I had to break my way of looking at the world because I came with a Ukrainian mindset and the Ukrainian cultural context and everything else. And I had to break it to transform into a French person, or at least to understand their way of being, the way of thinking, the culture, the context. And so I transformed into like a hybrid person. Somebody, I was not no more Ukrainian, but I was not French either. However, I became the person who I am now. And so the 7 years were really transformational. I really grew up. So when I came to France, I was 21, and when I left, I was 27. So these were like really establishing years for me as a person. That's why Paris has such a dear place in my heart. And every time I come back here, I want to see a bit of it. And it's so funny because every time I am in Paris, I go to the same supermarket where I used to go when I was a student and I buy same food. I try to reconnect with tastes and smells of my early 20s. I try to reconnect with the person who I was back then, and it brings me some sort of peace of mind. It puts me in this nice, nostalgic bubble that I really like. I enjoy going back in time and remembering this person who I was, remembering my learnings, like how I was learning about life, becoming an adult, navigating in a new country, dealing with difficult situations, meeting new friends. But I'm lucky, I have to say, I'm really lucky to have kept so many friends from those days. So currently, I'm staying with a friend whom I know for 20 years. And during this week, I was meeting with other friends whom I know for 20 years. And this is just incredible. This city is a real city where I became the person who I am now, where I created the most meaningful connections and where I gained a lot of life transforming experiences. So I'm grateful to the city. Yet again, I'm having difficulty with how Paris is transforming and what it is becoming. This week, I went out a few times to reconnect with good old places, to see some memorable streets, buildings, to sit in my favorite cafes. And I went to Notre Dame de Paris. And oh my God, I was so shocked. There were crowds and crowds of people. I believe this happened for two reasons. First, because Notre Dame de Paris was rebuilt, and this is the Olympic Games effect. Because last time I was in Paris in July last year, just before the Olympics, and I feel like the crowds have increased considerably. And so I remember before, you would just walk near Notre Dame and you could walk in. They were maybe 20, 50 people inside or out, like, yeah, a little bit more outside, but no crowds. It was not a problem to enter Notre Dame de Paris. This time, there are lines, like huge queues of people, a lot of police. They created these lines like in the airport to enter Notre Dame. Oh my God. Like, I wanted to go inside, but I stopped myself from wasting so much time. And then I was like, okay, yeah, something is changing clearly. On the positive side, I found that Paris is becoming greener. There are much more green areas in Paris, because the Paris I remember used to be very like white, like most of the buildings are made from white stone, with very few parks and trees on the streets. But this time I found that different neighborhoods put a lot of effort into making the city greener. So that was a huge, huge plus. Later on today, I'm going to Institut du Monde Arabe, the Museum for Arabic Culture and Arts, and I booked a guided tour on calligraphy. I'm very curious about that. This place was my favorite place back in the day, because when I studied here, I studied Arabic and Farsi, and I was really fascinated with Arabic calligraphy. So this is a place that I want to visit today. I hope I will not forget to take my camera and to shoot something from this place. It's an absolutely gorgeous place, and if you go to Paris, I would definitely recommend you to go there. The architecture and like everything, like the exhibitions, everything about this place is very special. So go to l'Institut du Monde Arabe. Yesterday, as I was walking on the streets of my favorite neighborhood in Paris, Les Abbesses, I was thinking that I somehow overgrew the city that I really loved. And despite all my conflicting feelings about this place, it still has a special role in my life. And I may not be in the same place, and my personal preferences may not be the same as before, because I clearly cannot imagine living in Paris anymore for now. But I somehow feel quite nostalgic about this place, and I will definitely come back. And I wonder, have you ever fell out of love with a place that was special to you? What are your feelings in this situation? How do you deal with this place and with yourself in this place? I'm very curious to know. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. By doing this, you will help me grow my channel. But most importantly, I'm really curious if you like this format of my videos. Okay, so I'm staying in Paris 5 more days, and I will shoot a little bit more about everything that is happening here. I will tell you a little bit more about the program, but maybe this is not the main point. Why are you here? I will show you a little bit more of Paris and a little bit more of my favorite places here. See you in my next video.